So, should you be terrified of a rattlesnake? I think that's reasonable. Should you be terrified of a boa constrictor? No. Okay. Boa constrictor?
It's a really big. It's like a python.
Yeah, python.
They can range from this big.
Yeah, they start out really small and cute, and then they just get humongous.
It's the type. It's the species of snake that don't have venom.
My uncle was bit by a boa constrictor, so I'm like I've generalized like all snakes are bad. Although I have tried to go crocodile hunter once, and there was a California king snake going across my lens, and I'm like, I'm never grab its tail. And then it whipped around and almost bit me, so after that. But, huh?
Why did you grab its tail?
Because it was cool. Why wouldn't you? Right? I knew it wasn't a rattlesnake. Had to kill a rattlesnake the other day. Yep. All right, so let's talk physical, okay? Because psychology and physiology often get separated. This is all happening through brain connections. This is not just some like ethereal thing that's floating around in our psychology. This is a real physical phenomenon. When you learn things, neurons get connected. Okay? So what's happening is there's a part in your brain. Let's see. Nose, and that's, I'll put a sad mouth because you're learning about fear. So when information comes into your senses, okay? This is an eyeball. So when information comes into your senses, there's, and I think I've talked about this before in class, there's two paths it can take. One is to your amygdala. You guys remember this?
Yes.
Good. And the other is to your cortex. So the information goes straight to your amygdala, longer or slower to the cortex? Slower. Okay, it takes longer. Sorry, I guess that was a trick question. Okay? I don't know how to answer that. Okay, so it takes more time to get to the cortex, right? So what is the amygdala doing? Panicking. Kind of. The amygdala doesn't panic. It's actually very logical. It keeps a database about what is dangerous and what's not dangerous. And when something comes in through your sensory information, it goes through its files and it says, what is this similar to? Should I classify this as dangerous or not? If it believes it's dangerous, it'll hijack your body, create fight or flight response, try to get you to safety, which does not always work as well as the amygdala thinks it's going to work. Sometimes it's just a stupid panic attack that could end up getting you in a car accident or something. But more often than not, the amygdala is helpful. That's why we have it. It determines whether something's scary or not. If it's not scary, it doesn't do anything, it just lets it bypass the cortex, and then you can think it through. Okay? So when we are, now the cool thing about the amygdala is we can train it. So we can teach it to be afraid of things. We can also teach it that this isn't something to be afraid of. So every time a soldier avoids that scary crowd, and he runs away during his panic attack, the amygdala goes, yep, let's put another star next to that situation, because that's obviously dangerous. But it's actually really easy to untrain anxiety and phobias. So if that soldier stood there long enough, he had let himself have his panic attack if he needed it, eventually a panic attack is going to end. Like, you have to fall asleep at some point, right? You can't be freaking out for the rest of your life. That doesn't happen. So at some point, he's going to calm down. The situation's going to get boring. And the amygdala goes, well, wait a minute, we didn't die. And now he's calm. You can't be calm in a dangerous situation, so this must not be that dangerous of a situation. And then the amygdala redoes the file that you have in your head on crowds and says, not as dangerous as I thought. And then the next time the guy gets into the crowd, he starts feeling anxious, but not as anxious as before. And then if he stays there long enough to calm down, the amygdala goes again, not as dangerous as I thought it was. And eventually he just throws the file out so you can go walk through a crowd without having any anxiety. And so this is how we retrain the amygdala to not be afraid. Phobia therapy is the only therapy I've ever seen that will give a money-back guarantee because it's so easy to retrain people to not be afraid of things. So with phobia therapy, what we do is it's called gradual desensitization. So we want to desensitize you to things that you're afraid of. So my student who is afraid of water, we actually did this in class, and I said, tell me what the scariest thing for you to do with water would be. And she said, get in the ocean. And just saying that, I mean, she looked like she was about to have a panic attack in class. And it was just thinking about it freaked her out. And I said, what is the easiest thing that you could do? And she said, well, I can splash water on my face without too much of a problem. Okay, so that's number one. Splash face. I said, what would be the next thing for you to do? And she said, well, I could probably take a shower. That would only give me, a certain amount of anxiety. So shower is next. Then what's scarier after that? And she said, a bath. And I said, what would be scary after that? And she said, to stand 10 feet away from the pool. And then after that, it was 5 feet. And then it was put her toes in the pool. And then it was sit in the pool. And so we just worked down this hierarchy from least scary to most scary. And I said, the only thing you need to do, and of course by this point she looked like she was going to cry. I said, the only thing you need to do is this. But you need to do it until you're bored with it. So I don't care if that takes you 5 minutes or 2 hours or 3 days. I don't care. Do this until you're bored with it. And I said, now this was a weekly class, and I said, come back next week and let me know how it went doing number one. Well, she came back the next week and she said, you'll never believe I got in the ocean. No. In 1 week. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. So she said she started doing this, and she said when she thought about it as just do it until she was bored, she realized it took like 2 minutes, and she wasn't feeling anxiety. So then she ran the shower until she wasn't feeling anxious, and then she got in the shower. She stood away from it until she wasn't anxious, and then she finally got in it, and she said it probably took 45 minutes of standing under the shower before she wasn't feeling anxious. And see, as you're going, the amygdala is rewriting the fear response. So when you get down to this, she said it wasn't actually that scary. Because by the time you got to here, the amygdala was like, well, it's not a big deal. And the amygdala didn't give you a fear response, so you weren't afraid of it. So in 1 week, she was able to take her kids to the ocean. Right? Yeah. So remember, all of this learning is physiological. And your neurons are making, in your amygdala, you've got neurons making connections. Okay, so this is the ocean and fear. For her, this was really strongly connected. And so as she worked down this list, she splashed face on her water, and it disconnected a little bit. Or she splashed water on her face, and then it disconnected. She took a shower, it disconnected. She did the next thing, it disconnected. And over time, by the time she got to the ocean, it was a very weak connection, so that it didn't really trigger the fear response. Okay? So remember how those neurons connect, they can also disconnect. Make sense? Okay? All right. How are we doing on time? Good. We're out of this class at 2, yeah? Okay. Just enough time to do this then. All right, so classical conditioning, this is the last part of classical conditioning we'll talk about. Classical conditioning explains some drug overdoses, and this is really interesting. Remember, this is physiological. Your body's actually doing something. And you can train your body to do certain things. So for instance, they have done an experiment with rats where they gave them chocolate milk, because rats love chocolate milk, and they put a chemical in it that causes the immune system to crash. So whenever they drank chocolate milk, their immune system crashed. Then, after a while, they gave them chocolate milk without the chemical in it, and guess what happened to their immune system? It still crashed. Okay? So that was their mind affecting their immune system. There was nothing causing their immune system to crash. The body just expected it to happen, and it made it happen. So this can also happen with drug overdoses. So conditioned compensatory response, I did not come up with that term, so I apologize for whatever idiot psychologist did, okay, but you'll just have to memorize it. Your body can be trained or conditioned to learn to compensate for drug use. Does that make sense? So your body will compensate. So what happens is, if you take a drug, or drink alcohol, or whatever, the drug quantity in your bloodstream will spike, and over time, it will drop. Now, it does not just naturally drop. Your body cleans it out of your system. So your liver, for instance, will start to produce enzymes. So when it senses the drugs in your bloodstream, it will start to produce enzymes. And as these enzymes go up, it starts to clean out this blood, or clean out the drug from the blood, so that the drug level will start to drop, and then the liver stops producing those enzymes. Okay? Now here's the interesting thing. Over time, you can train your body when you're going to take the drugs. So hardcore drug users tend to have very strong habits. So every time you take your drug, your cocaine or whatever, you'll do it in the same environment. You have a drug of choice, you have a place to use it of choice. Maybe your drug dealer's house, maybe your friend's house, maybe your own house, maybe the park. And so your body will start to learn, every time this stupid human goes to the park, I know that we're going to get this spike of drugs into our body. So instead of waiting to produce the enzyme, what the body will do is it will start to produce the enzyme first before you've ever taken drugs, because it knows that you're headed towards your drug-taking area. So then by the time that you get the drug in your body, your enzymes are really high, and it's already cleaning the drug out, and so you don't get the same spike as you would have gotten before, because you already have high levels of these janitor enzymes in your blood. Does that make sense?
Is it just like your body getting used to it?
That's a part of it, but that's not this phenomenon. Your body knows you're going to take the drug. It's been conditioned. She takes the drug in this spot. So once you start heading towards that spot, your body will start producing the enzymes before you even take the drug. Usually, you have to take the drug for those enzymes to be released, but your body's smart enough to know we want to get this poison out of the body, so just start producing the enzymes now because they're about to take it.
I know you used that one dog as an example for conditioning, but I remember seeing somewhere that you condition like pigeons to play ping pong.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's probably more operant conditioning, which we'll get into next class. But yeah, you can definitely train animals to do all sorts of weird stuff. You can train humans to do even weirder stuff. Okay, so let's go through this example. So this is also, by the way, this happens with sugar. Sugar is considered a toxin in the body too. And so insulin will increase to clean it out. All right, so imagine you are a drug user. I actually put this together before. She died of an overdose, so it's kind of sad now. But
good job.
Whatever. Yeah. All right, so let's talk about how this causes overdose. So you're Amy Winehouse or somebody. You usually do drugs under the bleacher, which I'm sure is not where she does it. But just for the sake of example.
Well, she can't. She's dead.
She can't. Well, yeah. I don't know where she's doing her drugs now. So if this is your place of choice, then what's happening with your enzyme production?
Well,
It's already increased. Now, she's a hardcore drug user, right? So she's going to the place where she typically does her drugs, which is behind the high school bleachers. Her enzyme level, has it gone up or is it the same? It's already gone up even before she takes the drugs, right? So she takes the drugs, she gets sort of messed up. But she doesn't get as messed up because she has those enzymes already cleaning the drug out of the system. Now let's say she takes the drugs, or she buys the drugs, but this time, like, there's security guards behind the bleacher, so she has to go to her friend's house in Barstow. This is an actual house in Barstow. Now what's going to happen with those enzymes? They're not going to go up. So the brain is smart, but it's not that smart. So it doesn't realize, it hasn't been triggered or stimulated to pick up on the signs that she's about to go do drugs, because it's in a different environment. So instead of producing these enzymes, it's just sitting there going, oh, well, I don't know what's going on, until the drug gets into the system. But here's the thing. If you are a hardcore drug user, if you're using it in the same place, this enzyme production is starting earlier and earlier in your drug use. How much, is it affecting how many drugs you're taking, how much drugs you're taking?
No.
Why? Yes, the answer is yes, but why?
Because you need more to get.
You need more to get the same high because you have those enzymes in your bloodstream cleaning it out. Does that make sense? Okay. So here's the problem. Now you go to a different location. Are you going to go, I'm sure my body isn't going to produce these enzymes, so I better lower the amount of drugs I'm taking? No. You still, because you're a stupid drug user, so you still use the same amount of drugs, but you don't have those enzymes. So now what's the reaction you get from the drugs?
A lot stronger.
A lot stronger. So you get this huge spike, okay? You get a huge spike of drugs, and the body can't produce enzymes fast enough to get it cleaned out, and so now you're really messed up. Okay? And if it's severe enough, if you're using enough drugs, and your body is too slow in producing those enzymes to clean it out, now you OD. Okay? So normally, you can take the same amount of drugs without any repercussions. I mean, besides you're destroying your brain. But if you go into a different environment and you take that same amount of drugs, now you're so used to it, to having these enzymes, and you're so used to your body compensating for the drug use, that you're taking a huge amount of drugs, and then when those enzymes aren't there, it's such a high reaction, such a strong reaction in the body that it can kill you. And so this is one of the big reasons why people overdose. Because their body doesn't compensate, because it's been tricked. And the really scary thing is the entire environment doesn't have to change. Whatever your body picks up on as a stimulus could be very small things. Could be a certain type of music that's playing. Could be the fact that your drug dealer always wears a stupid beret, and he's not wearing it this Tuesday, and your body goes, well, there's no beret, we must not be doing drugs today. It doesn't produce the enzymes. It could be something very small, and you have no idea what the trigger is for your body to release those enzymes. And then the other thing that could happen is your body just gets tired of producing them and one day goes, I'm not working today, good luck. And then you overdose and die. Okay, so any of those could happen. All right, so that is conditioned compensatory response. Now, before you leave, turn to the person next to you and explain conditioned compensatory response.
Take a choice.
If you don't want to do well, it's your choice. You can explain it to me if you want to be a part of it. There's no way you explain it well. You can do it like this. Go to psychology class. There's your All right. Are you guys working on your term paper yet? Have you guys read your Gottman book? No. Read some of it. Okay. I don't care about your other classes. All right. Next week, the same day, same time, same bat channel. I want you to turn in your first argument. Okay. What's today? Wednesday. So, well, give it to me on Monday. You can get an argument done by Monday. So on Monday, you have to write up your first argument.
But nothing else.
But nothing else. You do not have to analyze it, nothing. I just want your first argument. Just the script. Joe said this, Jill said that. All right, see you guys next time.
You can do it with your boyfriend. You guys can argue for like